Rebecca stood frozen as security guards arrived. The wealthy man, Richard Sterling, pointed at her with a shaking hand. His face was red, veins standing out on his neck. Two doctors walked frantically over the bed, manually pumping air into the boy's lungs. The heart monitor showed a weak, irregular beat. Rebecca's supervisor, Mrs. Patterson, grabbed her arm and pulled her into the hallway. "What happened?" Mrs. Patterson demanded. "Tell me exactly what happened." "I was cleaning," Rebecca whispered. Her voice did not sound like her own. "The cart hit the cords. I pulled out the wrong plug. I tried to fix it, but I made it worse." "That room was marked restricted," Mrs. Patterson said. Her voice was cold. "You were not supposed to be in there." "The schedule said to clean all ICU rooms," Rebecca protested. "I was just following orders." "The schedule was changed this morning. Check your messages." Mrs. Patterson pulled out her phone and showed Rebecca the notification sent at 6 in the morning. Rebecca had been on the bus at that time. She never saw it. Through the window, she could see the medical team still working. The boy looked so young, maybe 25 years old. Someone's son, someone's whole world. And she had destroyed it all with one careless moment. Richard Sterling burst into the hallway. "I want her arrested," he shouted. "That woman just murdered my son. Someone call the police." "Mr. Sterling, please," one of the doctors said, following him out. "Your son is stable. We have him back on support. His vitals are returning to normal." "Normal?" Richard spun on the doctor. "My boy has been in a coma for 2 years. There is nothing normal about any of this. And now this incompetent woman nearly finishes what the accident started." Rebecca felt tears burning her eyes but refused to let them fall. She stood straight, even as her legs trembled. "I am sorry," she said quietly. "I am so sorry. It was an accident." "An accident?" Richard moved closer. "An accident is spilling coffee. This is negligence. This is criminal. I will make sure you never work in this city again. I will make sure everyone knows what you did." Mrs. Patterson stepped between them. "Mr. Sterling, I understand you are upset, but threatening my employee is not appropriate. Rebecca, go to my office. Now." Rebecca walked down the hallway on legs that did not feel connected to her body. Behind her, she could hear Richard Sterling still shouting. Other staff members watched her pass. Some looked sympathetic. Most looked away. She had worked at Nashville General Hospital for 3 years. She knew these people. They knew her brother was sick. They knew she worked double shifts to afford his medication. None of that would matter now. She had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. In Mrs. Patterson's office, she sat in the hard plastic chair and waited. The clock on the wall ticked loudly. Through the window, she could see the parking lot where her 10-year-old car sat, held together with hope and duct tape. She would need that car to find a new job. If anyone would hire her after this. If he did not go to jail first. Mrs. Patterson entered 20 minutes later with a security guard. She carried a cardboard box. "I am sorry, Rebecca," she said, and she actually did sound sorry. "But I have to let you go. Effective immediately. Clean out your locker and turn in your badge." Rebecca took the box. Her hands were still shaking. "Can I get a reference?" Mrs. Patterson looked at the security guard, then back at Rebecca. "I do not think that would be wise. Mr. Sterling has already called the hospital director. There may be legal action. Anything I say could be used in court." So that was it. 3 years of work, gone in minutes. Rebecca stood and walked to the locker room, with the security guard following at a respectful distance. She packed her extra uniform, her lunchbox, the picture of her brother she kept taped inside the door. Other cleaners working the night shift watched but said nothing. What could they say? At the exit, she turned in her badge and walked into the cold November night. Nashville looked different somehow. The lights seemed harsher. The streets less friendly. She sat in her car, and finally let herself cry. The apartment was dark when Rebecca got home at 2 in the morning. She unlocked the 3 deadbolts on the door, and stepped into the tiny space she shared with her brother. The heat was turned down to save money. She could see her breath in the air. In the corner bedroom, she could hear Danny coughing. That deep, wet cough that terrified her. He was 12 years old and had cystic fibrosis. The medication that kept him alive cost $2,000 a month. Her insurance from the hospital had covered most of it. Past tense. Had covered. She dropped the cardboard box on the kitchen table and walked to Danny's room. He was awake, sitting up in bed with his nebulizer mask on. His thin face broke into a smile when he saw her. "You are home early," he said, pulling off the mask. "Did work end soon tonight?" Rebecca forced herself to smile. "Something like that. How are you feeling?" "Okay. Tired. I did my breathing exercises like you said." He pointed to the chart on the wall where he tracked his treatments. Every box was checked. He was such a good kid. He never complained. Never asked why their parents had died in the accident that gave him his disease. Never questioned why life was so hard. He just kept going, kept trying, kept believing things would get better. "That is great, Danny. I am proud of you." Rebecca sat on the edge of his bed. "Listen, I need to tell you something. I lost my job tonight." Danny's smile faded. "What happened? Did you do something wrong?" "I made a mistake. A big one. But I will find another job. We will be okay." The lie tasted bitter. She had $400 in the bank. Rent was due in 2 weeks. Danny's next prescription refill was in 5 days. They would not be okay. "I am sorry, Becca," Danny said quietly. He always called her Becca, the way their mom used to. "Is it because of me? Because you have to take care of me?" "No." Rebecca grabbed his thin shoulders. "Do not ever think that. You are the best thing in my life. I made a mistake at work. That is all. It has nothing to do with you." Danny nodded, but she could see the guilt in his eyes. He knew how much his medication cost. He knew she worked 2 jobs. He was 12, but he understood more than any child should have to. She hugged him tight, feeling his ribs through his thin pajamas. She needed to get him better food. Healthier food. But healthy food cost money they did not have. "Go to sleep now," she said. "School tomorrow." "Can I stay home? I am really tired." Rebecca hesitated. He had already missed 10 days this semester. But he looked so pale, and his breathing sounded rough even with the medication. "Okay. 1 day. But tomorrow you rest and do your treatments. Deal?" "Deal." He lay back down, and she pulled the blankets up to his chin. The blankets were old and worn, but they were clean. She made sure of that. Some things she could control. In the kitchen, Rebecca made a list of other hospitals in Nashville. There were 4 more within driving distance. She would apply to all of them tomorrow. She would also check nursing homes, clinics, anywhere that needed cleaning staff. She was a hard worker. Someone would hire her. They had to. The alternative was unthinkable. Her phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Patterson. "Mr. Sterling has filed a formal complaint with the state medical board. They may investigate. Thought you should know." Rebecca put her head down on the table. A formal complaint meant no one in healthcare would hire her. Not as a cleaner, not as anything. She was 26 years old with a high school diploma and no skills beyond mopping floors and changing bedpans. What else could she do? She thought about the boy in the hospital bed. Andrew Sterling, according to the chart she had seen. 2 years in a coma from a car accident. His father obviously loved him desperately. That kind of love made people do terrible things. She could not blame Richard Sterling for wanting revenge. She had hurt his son. She deserved whatever came next. But Danny did not deserve it. Danny deserved a chance at life. That thought alone kept her from giving up entirely. She would figure something out. She always did. She had been figuring things out since she was 19 and her parents died and left her with a sick child to raise alone. She would figure this out too. The clock on the microwave said 3 in the morning. She set her alarm for 7 and laid down on the couch without bothering to change clothes. Sleep did not come easy, but eventually exhaustion won. 3 days passed. Rebecca applied to 17 jobs. No one called back. She went to the food bank on Tuesday afternoon and stood in line with other people who had run out of options. The volunteers were kind. They gave her a box of canned goods, bread, and some frozen chicken. It would last a week if she was careful. Danny's medication would run out in 2 days. She had called the pharmacy and begged for an extension. They said they would try, but could not promise anything. Insurance companies moved slowly. On Wednesday morning, Someone knocked on her apartment door. Rebecca looked through the peephole and saw a woman in an expensive coat standing in the dingy hallway. She was maybe 50 years old with brown hair and a kind face. Rebecca did not recognize her. She opened the door, but kept the chain on. "Can I help you?" Rebecca asked. "Are you Rebecca Chen?" The woman's voice was soft. Rebecca's heart sank. Chen was her last name from her father, who had been Chinese American. "Yes. Who are you?" "My name is Catherine Sterling. May I come in? I promise I am not here to cause trouble." Sterling. The name hit Rebecca like a physical blow. This was Andrew's mother, Richard's wife. She had come to finish what her husband started. Rebecca considered closing the door, but something in Catherine's face stopped her. She slid the chain off and stepped back. Catherine walked into the small apartment and looked around without judgment. Her eyes settled on Danny's breathing equipment in the corner, then on the medical bills stacked on the kitchen table. She turned back to Rebecca. "I am not here to threaten you," Catherine said. "I am here to tell you something important. May we sit?" Rebecca gestured to the couch. She sat in the chair across from it, her body tense. "If you are here to tell me about a lawsuit, I understand. I do not have a lawyer. I cannot afford one. I will accept whatever happens." "There is no lawsuit." Catherine's voice was gentle. "Richard was angry. He said terrible things. But that is not why I am here." "Then why are you here?" Catherine took a deep breath. "Because you saved my son's life." Rebecca stared at her. "I almost killed your son. The machines." "I know what happened. The hospital told us everything." Catherine leaned forward. "Rebecca, my son has been in a vegetative state for 2 years. After his car accident, the doctors said there was almost no brain activity. They said he would never wake up. But Richard refused to give up. He kept Andrew on life support, kept hoping for a miracle." "I am sorry," Rebecca whispered. "That must have been so hard." "It was. But 3 days ago, when you accidentally unplugged those machines, something happened. The doctors had to rush in. They had to assess Andrew quickly without the support systems. And they found something." "What did they find?" Catherine's eyes filled with tears, but she was smiling. "Brain activity. Significant brain activity. Rebecca, my son has been coming back for weeks, maybe months. But the machines were doing everything for him. His body had no reason to fight. When you unplug them, even for those few minutes, his body had to take over. And it did. His lungs started working on their own. His heart rate stabilized without medication. The doctors ran tests. Andrew is waking up." Rebecca could not process the words. "Waking up? But your husband said." "My husband was terrified. He thought he was watching our son die. He did not know what the doctors would discover. None of us did." Catherine reached across and took Rebecca's hand. "You made a mistake. But that mistake revealed a miracle. The doctors said if we had waited much longer, Andrew's muscles would have atrophied beyond recovery. You gave him a second chance." Rebecca felt tears streaming down her face. "I do not understand. Why are you telling me this?" "Because Richard wants to apologize. Because we want to help you the way you helped us. The hospital told us why you were working so hard. About your brother. About your situation." Catherine squeezed her hand. "You have been dealt a difficult hand, Rebecca. Let us help you." Catherine pulled out her phone and showed Rebecca a video. It was Andrew in his hospital bed, but he was different. His eyes were open. He was looking at the camera. He tried to smile, but his face muscles did not quite work yet. A doctor stood beside him, explaining that Andrew had been conscious for at least 48 hours. They were running cognitive tests. So far, everything looked promising. The damage from the coma was minimal. With physical therapy, he would make a full recovery. "He is awake," Rebecca breathed. "He is really awake." "Thanks to you," Catherine said. "The doctors explained it to us. When someone is on life support for a long time, their body forgets how to act. The machines breathe for them, pump their blood, regulate everything. Andrew's brain had started healing months ago, but his body was not getting the signals. It was too dependent on the machines. But turning them off could have killed him. It could have. But it did not. God was watching over both of you that night. Catherine put her phone away. Rebecca, I know you lost your job. Richard called the hospital director in anger, but he has since called back and explained the situation. They are willing to rehire you if you want. With a raise. Rebecca shook her head. I do not want to go back there. Everyone saw what happened. They will always remember. I understand. Then let me offer you something else. Richard owns Sterling Industries. We manufacture medical equipment. We also run a charitable foundation. We need someone to manage our community outreach programs. Someone who understands what it means to struggle. Someone with compassion. Catherine paused. The job pays $60,000 a year, with full health benefits. For you and your brother. Rebecca felt dizzy. $60,000 was more than double what she made cleaning. Full health benefits meant Danny's medication would be covered. It meant no more choosing between rent and prescriptions. It meant breathing room. But it felt wrong somehow. Like charity. Like pity. I do not have any experience with that kind of work, Rebecca said carefully. I am just a cleaner. I did not even finish college. You have the most important qualification, Catherine replied. You know what it means to need help. Our foundation works with families who cannot afford medical care. Who better to run that program than someone who has lived it? I made a mistake at your son's bedside. A terrible mistake. And that mistake saved his life. Rebecca, do you believe in providence? In things happening for a reason? Catherine's eyes were bright. I do. I believe you were meant to be in that room that night. I believe your struggle, your exhaustion, even your clumsy accident, all of it was part of a larger plan. Rebecca wanted to believe that. She wanted to believe her pain had meaning. That Danny's suffering had purpose. That their parents' death had not been random and cruel. I would need to think about it, she said finally. Of course. Take all the time you need. Catherine stood and walked to the door. Then she turned back. One more thing. Richard has already paid for your brother's medication. The pharmacy has a 6-month supply ready. You just need to pick it up. What? Why would he do that? Because he was wrong about you. Because he wants to make it right. Because we have been blessed, Rebecca, and blessings are meant to be shared. Catherine handed her a business card. Call me when you decide. But please decide soon. There are so many people we could help together. After Catherine left, Rebecca sat on the couch in shock. She looked at the business card. Catherine Sterling, Director of Sterling Foundation. There was a phone number and an email address. In the corner, someone had handwritten, "Trust in the plan." Danny emerged from his bedroom, wrapped in a blanket. Who was that lady? I heard talking. Rebecca pulled him onto the couch beside her. That was someone offering us help. Real help. The kind that changes everything. Are you going to take it? I think so. But it feels too good to be true. Danny leaned against her. Mom used to say that sometimes good things happen to good people. Maybe this is one of those times. Rebecca hugged her brother tight. Their mother had said that. She had been an optimist, even when life gave her every reason not to be. Maybe Danny was right. Maybe this was their time. Rebecca called Catherine the next morning and accepted the job. 2 weeks later, she started work at Sterling Foundation. The office was in downtown Nashville, in a modern building with glass walls and bright, open spaces. Her desk overlooked the city. She had her own computer, her own phone extension, and a nameplate that said Rebecca Chen, Community Outreach Director. The first day was overwhelming. Catherine introduced her to the staff, 15 people who all seemed impossibly smart and capable. They worked on programs providing free medical equipment to low-income families, covering hospital bills for people in crisis, and funding research for rare diseases. Rebecca felt completely out of her depth. You will learn, Catherine assured her. For now, just listen. See what we do. Think about how we could do it better. Rebecca spent the first week reading files and attending meetings. She learned that the foundation helped over 5,000 families each year. They had a budget of $20 million. The number made her head spin. She had never even seen $20,000, let alone $20 million. How was she supposed to manage programs with that kind of money? But as she read the case files, something shifted. These were not just numbers and statistics. These were families like hers. Single mothers working 3 jobs. Children with chronic illnesses. Elderly people choosing between medication and food. Rebecca knew these struggles. She had lived them. And suddenly, she understood what Catherine meant. She did not need an MBA or fancy degree. She needed empathy. She needed to see the people behind the paperwork. On Friday of her first week, Catherine brought her to the hospital to meet Andrew. Rebecca's stomach twisted with nerves as they rode the elevator to the rehabilitation wing. What if he was angry? What if he blamed her for his pain? The machines had kept him comfortable. Now he was going through the agony of relearning to use his body. They entered a bright therapy room where Andrew was working with a physical therapist. He was standing between parallel bars, taking slow, shaking steps. His face was red with effort. Sweat dripped down his neck. But he was walking. The boy who had been in a coma for 2 years was walking. "Andrew," Catherine called softly. "Someone is here to see you." He looked up and his eyes found Rebecca. For a long moment, he just stared. Then he smiled. It was a real smile this time, not the half-formed attempt from the video. "You are Rebecca," he said. His voice was rough from disuse but clear. "Yes. I am so sorry. Do not apologize." Andrew took another step, then another. The therapist stayed close but let him move on his own. "I heard you. That night. I heard you say you were sorry. Your voice was the first thing I really understood when I started coming back." Rebecca felt tears burning her eyes again. She seemed to cry constantly these days. "You heard me. I heard a lot of things. I heard my dad yelling. I heard the doctors working. I heard you crying." He reached the end of the bars and turned carefully. "I wanted to tell you it was okay. That I was okay. But I could not move. Could not talk. It was like being trapped in a fog. The doctors said you have been awake for weeks. Months, actually. At least partially. Time was weird. I would drift in and out. Sometimes I could hear everything. Sometimes nothing. But I was so tired. It was easier to sleep. Until that night." He looked directly at her. "When the machine stopped, I felt panic. Real panic. It was the first strong emotion I had felt in 2 years. And it woke me up. Really woke me up. My body kicked in. Started fighting. I owe you my life. Your mother said the same thing. But I almost killed you. You gave me a reason to live. That is very different." Andrew finished his walk, and the therapist helped him into a wheelchair. He was breathing hard but smiling. "Mom says you are working for the foundation now." "I just started. I am still learning." "Good. We need someone like you. Someone who gets it." He wheeled himself closer. "I was in a car accident because I was driving drunk. Did they tell you that? I made a stupid choice and paid for it with 2 years of my life. My parents paid for it too. They never gave up on me, even when the doctors said to. That kind of grace, that kind of love, it changes you. I want to spend the rest of my life earning it." Rebecca understood exactly what he meant. She had been given grace too. Not because she deserved it, but because someone chose to see past her mistake. Over the next 3 months, Rebecca threw herself into her work. She redesigned the application process for families seeking help, making it simpler and faster. She started visiting applicants in person, seeing their situations firsthand. She created a network of volunteers who delivered equipment and checked in on families. The foundation's impact grew. More people received help. More lives changed. Danny's health improved with consistent medication and better food. Rebecca could afford fresh vegetables now, lean proteins, the supplements his doctor recommended. He gained weight. His coughing decreased. He even started playing basketball at school. Rebecca would watch him run up and down the court, her heart full of gratitude. This was what hope looked like. Andrew recovered faster than anyone expected. Within 3 months, he was walking without assistance. His speech was normal. His cognitive functions tested above average. He started volunteering at the foundation 3 days a week, working alongside Rebecca. They made a good team. He understood the medical side. She understood the human side. Together, they helped hundreds of families. One Tuesday afternoon, they visited a family in East Nashville. The Johnsons had a 6-year-old daughter with leukemia. The father had lost his job when he took too much time off for hospital visits. The mother worked nights as a waitress. They were 3 months behind on rent and facing eviction. The foundation had approved a grant to cover their bills and their daughter's uncovered medical expenses. Rebecca and Andrew delivered the check in person. Mrs. Johnson cried when she saw the amount. Mr. Johnson just sat down on the couch and put his head in his hands. Their daughter, Emily, did not understand what was happening. She just wanted to show Rebecca and Andrew her coloring books. Rebecca sat on the floor with her, admiring each picture, while the parents composed themselves. "Why are you doing this?" Mr. Johnson asked finally. "You do not know us." "Because someone helped me when I needed it most," Rebecca said. "And now I get to pass that gift forward." "We will pay you back," Mrs. Johnson said. "When things get better, we will pay back every penny." "No," Andrew said gently. "That is not how this works. You do not pay us back. When you are on your feet again, you help someone else. That is all we ask." Driving back to the office, Andrew was quiet. Rebecca glanced over at him. "You okay?" "I was just thinking about that little girl. Emily. She has cancer and she is so happy, so full of life. Meanwhile, I wasted 2 years of my life being drunk and stupid." He stared out the window. "I keep thinking about all the time I lost. All the people I could have helped if I had not been so selfish. You are helping them now. It does not feel like enough." Rebecca pulled into the parking lot and turned off the car. "Listen to me. You do not get to waste your second chance feeling guilty about the past. You were given another shot at life. Honor that gift by living well, by being better, by helping others. That is all any of us can do." Andrew looked at her and smiled. "When did you get so wise?" "When I almost destroyed everything and someone gave me grace anyway." She opened her car door. "Come on. We have 3 more families to visit today." Are you inspired by how Rebecca and Andrew are transforming their second chances into hope for others? Subscribe to see how their story continues to unfold, and comment below about a time someone showed you unexpected kindness. That evening, Rebecca attended a foundation board meeting. Richard Sterling was there, along with Catherine and 5 other board members. They reviewed the quarterly numbers. Applications for help had increased by 40%. The foundation had served twice as many families as the previous quarter. Administrative costs were down. Volunteer participation was up. The board was thrilled. "Rebecca, this growth is directly attributed to your innovations," one board member said. "You have revolutionized our outreach." "I just made it easier for people to ask for help," Rebecca replied. "Pride stops a lot of people from applying. I tried to remove that barrier." Richard spoke for the first time. "Rebecca, I owe you an apology. I said terrible things to you that night at the hospital. I threatened you. I wanted to destroy you. I am deeply sorry. You were scared for your son. I understand. That is no excuse. I let fear turn me into someone I am not proud of. You showed grace by taking this job despite how I treated you. Thank you." He paused. "I would also like to propose something. We should create a new program. A scholarship fund for people like you. People who want to advance their education but cannot afford it. What do you think?" Rebecca felt her throat tighten. "I think that would help a lot of people." "Good. Because I would like you to be the first recipient. Catherine tells me you always wanted to be a nurse. The foundation will cover your tuition, books, and expenses. You can work part-time while you study. What do you say?" Rebecca looked around the table at all these people who had chosen to invest in her. She thought about her parents, who had always encouraged her to dream bigger. She thought about Danny, who deserved a sister he could be proud of. She thought about all the families waiting for help. "I say thank you. I will make you proud." Rebecca started nursing school in January. She took evening classes at Nashville State while working mornings at the foundation. It was exhausting but exhilarating. She loved learning about anatomy, pharmacology, patient care. Everything clicked in a way school never had before. Maybe because now she had a purpose. She was not just studying for a grade. She was preparing to help people. Andrew continued his recovery and his volunteer work. He and Rebecca fell into an easy rhythm. They would arrive at the office early, review cases over coffee, then spend the day visiting families or organizing programs. They had lunch together most days. They talked about everything. His childhood growing up wealthy but lonely. Her childhood growing up poor but loved. His struggles with alcohol. Her struggles with responsibility. They were different in so many ways, but they understood each other. One March afternoon, they were delivering a hospital bed to an elderly man in South Nashville. Mr. Parker had fallen and broken his hip. He lived alone. Medicare covered his hospital stay, but not the equipment he needed at home. The foundation provided a bed, a wheelchair, and a walker. Andrew and Rebecca spent 2 hours setting everything up and making sure Mr. Parker could use it all safely. As they drove away, Andrew said, "Can I ask you something personal?" "Sure," Rebecca replied. "Do you ever get angry? About your parents dying? About having to raise Danny alone? About missing out on a normal 20s? Rebecca considered the question carefully. "Sometimes. Late at night, when I am worried about money or Danny is sick, I get angry. I think about how unfair it all is. But anger does not change anything. It just makes the hard things harder." That is a very mature perspective. I do not have the luxury of being immature. Danny needs me to be strong. You are strong. Stronger than anyone I have ever met. Andrew was quiet for a moment. "I get angry sometimes. About the accident. About losing 2 years. About being the stupid drunk kid who threw away everything." "You were not stupid. You were hurting." That is a kind way to put it. My girlfriend had just broken up with me. I was failing out of business school. My dad was disappointed in me. I was disappointed in me. So I went to a bar and drank until I could not feel anything. Then I got in my car. He gripped the steering wheel. I could have killed someone else. Some innocent person. Instead, I just destroyed my own life and put my parents through pain. How do I forgive myself for that? Rebecca reached over and squeezed his hand. The same way I forgive myself for almost killing you. We accept that we are human. We make mistakes. We learn. We do better. And we help others, so our pain has meaning. Andrew held her hand for a moment longer than necessary. Rebecca felt something shift between them. Something warm and uncertain and frightening. She pulled her hand back and focused on the road. Over the next few weeks, they grew closer. Not intentionally. It just happened. Andrew started picking her up for work so she could study during the drive. They stayed late at the office, working on grant proposals and talking about their dreams. He wanted to take over the foundation someday, expand it nationally. She wanted to work in pediatric oncology, helping kids like Emily Johnson. Their dreams fit together somehow. In April, Danny had a health scare. His lung function dropped suddenly. Rebecca rushed him to the emergency room, terrified. The doctors admitted him for observation. It turned out to be a bad respiratory infection, treatable with antibiotics. But for 12 hours, Rebecca sat in a hospital waiting room, remembering what it felt like to be powerless. Andrew sat with her. He did not say much. He just stayed. He brought her coffee and made sure she ate. When the doctor finally said Danny would be fine, Andrew hugged her. Rebecca let herself lean into him, just for a moment. He smelled like soap and coffee. He felt solid and real. For the first time in years, she felt like maybe she did not have to carry everything alone. "Thank you for being here," she said. "Where else would I be?" Andrew pulled back and looked at her. "Rebecca, you know I care about you, right? More than just as a coworker." "I know. I care about you too. But it is complicated." "Why?" "Because you are a millionaire's son, and I am a former cleaning lady with a sick brother and a mountain of student loans. Because your parents gave me this job, and it would be weird if we dated. Because I almost killed you. Take your pick." Andrew smiled. "None of those things matter to me. They matter to the world. The world does not get a vote in my life anymore. I lost 2 years listening to what the world thought I should do. I am done with that." He took her hand again. "I am not asking for anything right now. I just want you to know how I feel. When you are ready, if you are ever ready, I will be here." Rebecca wanted to tell him she was ready, that she felt the same way. But fear held her back. Fear of being hurt. Fear of losing what they already had. Fear of not being enough. So she just squeezed his hand and said, "Thank you." The scholarship program launched in May. Richard announced it at a press conference, with Rebecca standing beside him. 25 people would receive full tuition, books, and living expenses to pursue degrees in healthcare. The recipients had to demonstrate financial need and a commitment to serving their communities. Applications poured in. Over 5,000 in the first month. Rebecca served on the selection committee. She read hundreds of stories. Single mothers trying to become nurses. Immigrants studying to be doctors. People who had survived cancer and wanted to help others survive too. Each story was heartbreaking and inspiring. They could only choose 25, but Rebecca wished they could help them all. The scholarship recipients were announced in June. The foundation held a ceremony at a downtown hotel. All 25 recipients attended with their families. Rebecca gave a speech about second chances and the power of education. She told her own story, how she had been a cleaning lady with no hope, how one mistake led to an opportunity, how that opportunity changed everything. Many people in the audience cried. Several reporters covered the event. The story ran on the local news. After the ceremony, a young woman approached Rebecca. She was maybe 19, with nervous eyes and a shy smile. "I just wanted to thank you," she said. "I am one of the scholarship recipients. I want to be a pediatric nurse. This scholarship made that possible." "What is your name?" Rebecca asked. "Grace Thompson. I have a little sister with cerebral palsy. I have been taking care of her since my mom died 2 years ago. I could not afford college. I thought I would be stuck working minimum wage jobs forever. But now I have a chance. Because of you." Rebecca hugged her. "Not because of me. Because people chose to help. Now you have to promise to help others when you can." "I promise. I will never forget this." Rebecca watched Grace walk away and felt Andrew appear beside her. "You are changing lives," he said. "We are changing lives. This was your dad's idea. He got the idea from you. You made him see that education is the way out of poverty." Andrew paused. "Can I take you to dinner? To celebrate?" Rebecca knew what he was really asking. She had known for weeks, maybe months. They had been dancing around their feelings, both afraid to take the next step. But life was short. She had learned that the hard way. Sometimes you had to take a risk. "Yes, I would like that." They went to a quiet Italian restaurant in Green Hills. They talked about work, school, Danny, the foundation. Normal things. Easy things. But underneath, there was electricity. Anticipation. When Andrew drove her home, he walked her to her door. He stood there in the dim hallway, looking at her like she was the most important thing in the world. "Can I kiss you?" he asked. Rebecca answered by standing on her toes and pressing her lips to his. The kiss was gentle and sweet and perfect. When they pulled apart, Andrew was smiling. "I have wanted to do that for months," he admitted. "Me too. But I was scared." "Of what?" "Of everything. Of not being good enough. Of you realizing you could do better. Of this being a mistake." Andrew cupped her face in his hands. "You are more than good enough. You are extraordinary. And this is not a mistake. This is the best decision I have ever made." They started dating officially after that. They kept it quiet at first, not telling anyone at work. But eventually, it became obvious. They arrived together. They left together. They looked at each other like people in love. Catherine figured it out first. She pulled Rebecca aside one day and hugged her. "I am so happy for you both," she said. "Andrew has not smiled like this since before the accident. You are good for him. He is good for me too. But are you okay with this? I mean, I work for your foundation. It is complicated. Life is always complicated. Love makes it worthwhile." Catherine squeezed her hand. "Just be good to each other. That is all I ask." In September, during Rebecca's second semester of nursing school, Danny collapsed at school. The call came while Rebecca was in anatomy class. She ran to the hospital, her heart pounding, prayers running through her mind. "Please let him be okay. Please." Not Danny. Not now. The doctors were waiting when she arrived. Danny had developed a severe lung infection. His lung function was dangerously low. They needed to intubate him and put him on a ventilator. The word ventilator made Rebecca's stomach drop. She thought of Andrew, lying in that hospital bed 2 years ago, kept alive by machines. She thought of the cord she had unplugged. Do whatever you need to do, she told the doctors. Please save him. They worked on Danny for hours. Rebecca sat in the waiting room, unable to cry, unable to think. Andrew arrived within minutes of hearing the news. Then Catherine. Then Richard. The Sterling family surrounded her with support. Other foundation staff members came. People Rebecca had helped over the past year showed up. The waiting room filled with people who cared. Finally, a doctor emerged. Danny is stable. He is on the ventilator. His oxygen levels are improving. But I have to be honest with you, Rebecca. His lungs are badly damaged. This infection may have pushed his disease into a new phase. What does that mean? It means he may need a lung transplant. Sooner rather than later. The doctor sat down beside her. There is an experimental treatment. A new therapy that has shown promise for cystic fibrosis patients. But it is expensive. Most insurance will not cover it yet. And there is a waiting list. How expensive? $200,000. Rebecca felt the world tilt. $200,000. She made decent money now, but not that kind of money. No one had that kind of money. Danny was going to die because she could not afford to save him. The unfairness of it crushed her. Andrew took her hand. We will figure it out. The foundation. The foundation cannot pay for individual treatments, Richard said quietly. Our bylaws prevent it. We have to maintain neutrality for our non-profit status. Then I will pay for it personally, Andrew said. My trust fund. No. Rebecca stood up. I cannot let you do that. This is not your responsibility. You are not letting me do anything. I am choosing to do it. Danny is important to you, which makes him important to me. Andrew stood too. Please. Let me help. Rebecca wanted to say yes. She wanted to let him save her brother. But accepting that much money felt wrong. It felt like she was using him. Like she was taking advantage of his feelings. I need to think about it. She walked out of the hospital and into the parking lot. The September air was cool. She sat on a bench and put her head in her hands. How had everything fallen apart so fast? Just this morning, life had been good. Better than it had been in years. And now Danny was on a ventilator, and she was back to being powerless. Catherine found her 10 minutes later. She sat down beside Rebecca and said nothing. Just sat there, being present. Finally, Rebecca spoke. I cannot take his money. It changes everything between us. Does it? Catherine asked. Or does it show you how much he loves you? I do not want him to love me because he feels sorry for me. That is not why he loves you. He loves you because you are kind and strong and brilliant. He loves you because you see him as a person, not as a bank account. Letting him help does not diminish any of that. Catherine paused. Rebecca, you have spent your whole life being independent, being strong, doing everything alone. Maybe it is time to let people in. Let us help you carry this burden. What if Danny does not survive anyway? What if we spend all that money and he still dies? Then we will have tried everything. And Danny will know he was loved enough that people fought for him. Catherine's voice was firm. You do not have to do this alone anymore. You have family now. Let us act like it. Rebecca let herself cry then. Deep, wrenching sobs that shook her whole body. Catherine held her while she fell apart. When Rebecca finally stopped crying, she felt empty but also lighter somehow. She looked at Catherine. Thank you. For everything. For giving me a chance when I did not deserve one. For trusting me. For loving me like family. You are family. And that is what family does. The community rallied around Danny in ways Rebecca never imagined. The foundation could not pay for his treatment directly, but they organized a fundraiser. Other families Rebecca had helped contributed what they could. The Johnsons sent $50 with a note that said because you saved us first. Grace Thompson, The scholarship recipient organized a bake sale at her school. Local businesses donated gift baskets for a silent auction. The news covered the story. Donations poured in. Within 2 weeks, they had raised enough money for Danny's treatment. Andrew contributed the rest anonymously, though Rebecca knew it was him. The doctor started the experimental therapy immediately. It was brutal. Danny was sick for weeks. But slowly, gradually, his lungs began to respond. His oxygen levels improved. His coughing decreased. After 6 weeks, the doctor removed the ventilator. After 8 weeks, Danny was breathing on his own. Rebecca returned to nursing school in October, exhausted but hopeful. She was behind in all her classes. Her professors worked with her, letting her make up assignments and take exams late. Her classmates brought her notes and study guides. Everyone wanted to help. It reminded Rebecca that she was not alone anymore. She had built a community, and now that community was lifting her up. Andrew was patient through everything. He never pushed for more than she could give. He just showed up. Every day. At the hospital. At school. At home. He helped Danny with homework when Rebecca was studying. He made sure they had groceries. He was there in all the quiet, unglamorous ways that mattered most. In December, 2 years after the night Rebecca unplugged the machines, she stood in a different hospital room. This time, Danny was there by choice, volunteering for a children's Christmas party. He wore a Santa hat and handed out presents to kids in the pediatric ward. His color was good. His breathing was strong. He looked like a normal 12-year-old boy, not a sick child fighting for every breath. Rebecca watched him from the doorway, Andrew beside her. 2 years ago, I thought I had destroyed everything, she said quietly. Now look at us. You saved my life, Andrew replied. And I get to spend it with you. I would say that worked out pretty well. Your mom was right. It was all part of a plan. A terrifying, painful, confusing plan. But a plan. Andrew took her hand. I have been meaning to ask you something. Well, not ask exactly. More like propose something. Rebecca's heart jumped. Propose? Not that. Not yet. Andrew smiled. But the foundation is expanding. We are opening offices in 5 more cities next year. We need directors for each location. People who understand our mission and can build programs from the ground up. I want you to be our director of national operations. Andrew, I am still in nursing school. So finish school. Get your degree. Then take the job. We need you, Rebecca. Not just the foundation. Me. I need you. He pulled her close. I know we have only been dating a few months. I know it is fast. But I have never been more sure of anything. I love you. I want to build a life with you. I want to help people with you. I want everything with you. Rebecca looked up at him. This man who had been a stranger 2 years ago. This man who had every reason to hate her, but chose to love her instead. This man who saw her at her worst and stayed anyway. I love you too. And yes, to all of it. To the job. To building a life together. To everything. Andrew kissed her there in the hospital hallway, surrounded by the beeping of machines and the chatter of nurses and the laughter of children. It was not a romantic setting, but it was their setting. It was where their story began and where their future started. Later that month, Rebecca graduated at the top of her nursing class. The entire Sterling family attended her graduation. Danny sat in the front row, healthy and happy. Grace Thompson was there too, along with other scholarship recipients. The Johnsons came. Mr. Parker came in his wheelchair. The waiting room full of people who had supported her through Danny's crisis. They all came to celebrate her success. In her graduation speech, Rebecca talked about second chances. About mistakes that lead to miracles. About communities that lift each other up. About love that conquers fear. She did not mention the night she unplugged the machines. Everyone already knew that story. Instead, she talked about what came after. The grace. The redemption. The hope. We all make mistakes, she said. Some small. Some life-changing. But mistakes do not define us. How we respond to them does. How we grow from them does. I made a terrible mistake 2 years ago. But people chose to see past that mistake and give me a chance. They chose kindness over judgment. They chose hope over despair. They chose love. And that choice changed everything. Not just for me, but for hundreds of families we have helped since then. That is the power of second chances. One person's redemption creates ripples that touch countless lives. The audience stood and applauded. Rebecca looked out at all those faces and felt overwhelming gratitude. She had been so scared that night at the hospital. So certain her life was over. She could never have imagined standing here now, surrounded by love and possibility and purpose. Andrew was waiting when she came off the stage. He held a bouquet of red roses and a small box. Rebecca's breath caught. "I know I said not yet," Andrew said. "But I changed my mind. Life is too short to wait. Rebecca Chen, you are the bravest, kindest, most amazing person I have ever met. You saved my life in every way a person can be saved. Will you marry me?" Rebecca looked at the ring, a simple diamond on a silver band. She looked at Andrew's hopeful face. She looked at Danny, grinning in the front row. She looked at Catherine and Richard, both crying happy tears. She looked at her community, her family, her people. "Yes," she said. "Yes to everything." They were married 6 months later in a small ceremony at the hospital chapel where it all began. Danny was the ring bearer. Grace Thompson was a bridesmaid. Catherine and Richard sat in the front row, beaming. The foundation staff filled the pews. Families they had helped came to celebrate. It was not a fancy wedding, but it was filled with love. 5 years after that terrible night, Rebecca stood in a new hospital, the first satellite clinic of Sterling Foundation Medical Center. They had opened 10 locations across the country, providing free care to families who could not afford treatment. Rebecca was Director of National Operations. Andrew was CEO of the foundation. Together, they had helped over 50,000 families. The scholarship program had grown to include 500 students. Grace Thompson was graduating medical school next month. Danny, now 17 and healthy, wanted to study hospital administration. He wanted to run medical centers like the one his sister had built. Richard and Catherine had established a trust fund for his education. They called him their grandson. Rebecca thought about that night often. The night she made a mistake that felt unforgivable. The night she thought her life was over. That mistake had led to this. To a career she loved. To a husband she adored. To a brother who was thriving. To thousands of families who had hope because someone had shown her grace. She stood in the bright, clean clinic and watched families come in for treatment. A mother with a sick baby. An elderly man needing a wheelchair. A young woman seeking addiction counseling. All of them finding help. All of them receiving grace. Andrew appeared beside her, slipping his hand into hers. Thinking about that night. Always. How it changed everything. No regrets. Rebecca smiled. Not a single one. Even the scary parts. Even the painful parts. It all led here. To this moment. To us. To all these people finding hope. You know what I think. Andrew pulled her close. I think you were meant to be in that room. Meant to unplug those machines. Meant to wake me up. Not just from the coma, but from the life I was wasting. You saved me, Rebecca. In every way possible. We saved each other. They stood together in the clinic they had built, watching hope happen in real time. Watching second chances bloom. Watching love win. Outside, Nashville glowed in the afternoon sun. Somewhere in the city, people were struggling. But here, in this space they had created, there was help. There was grace. There was always another chance. Because that is what Rebecca had learned from her mistake. That sometimes the worst moments lead to the best outcomes. That kindness is stronger than fear. That love conquers even the darkest circumstances. That second chances are real. And that miracles happen when people choose grace over judgment, hope over despair, and love over everything else. The end came full circle, back to where it started. But everything was different now. Everything was better. Because one mistake, one terrible, beautiful mistake, had changed countless lives. And it all began with a cord coming loose in a dark hospital room, and a scared young woman whispering an apology to a stranger. That apology became a conversation. That conversation became a relationship. That relationship became a movement. And that movement brought hope to thousands. This was their legacy. This was their story. A story of redemption, second chances, and the power of choosing kindness even when everything seems lost. She stood in the bright, clean clinic and watched families come in for treatment. A mother with a sick baby. An elderly man needing a wheelchair. A young woman seeking addiction counseling. All of them finding help. All of them receiving grace. Andrew appeared beside her, slipping his hand into hers. Thinking about that night. Always. How it changed everything. No regrets. Rebecca smiled. Not a single one. Even the scary parts. Even the painful parts. It all led here. To this moment. To us. To all these people finding hope. You know what I think? Andrew pulled her close. I think you were meant to be in that room. Meant to unplug those machines. Meant to wake me up. Not just from the coma, but from the life I was wasting. You saved me, Rebecca. In every way possible. We saved each other. They stood together in the clinic they had built, watching hope happen in real time. Watching second chances bloom. Watching love win. Outside, Nashville glowed in the afternoon sun. Somewhere in the city, people were struggling. But here, in this space they had created, there was help. There was grace. There was always another chance. Because that is what Rebecca had learned from her mistake. That sometimes the worst moments lead to the best outcomes. That kindness is stronger than fear. That love conquers even the darkest circumstances. That second chances are real. And that miracles happen when people choose grace over judgment, hope over despair, and love over everything else. The end came full circle, back to where it started. But everything was different now. Everything was better. Because one mistake, one terrible, beautiful mistake, had changed countless lives. And it all began with a cord coming loose in a dark hospital room, and a scared young woman whispering an apology to a stranger. That apology became a conversation. That conversation became a relationship. That relationship became a movement. And that movement brought hope to thousands. This was their legacy. This was their story. A story of redemption, second chances, and the power of choosing kindness even when everything seems lost. She stood in the bright, clean clinic and watched families come in for treatment. A mother with a sick baby. An elderly man needing a wheelchair. A young woman seeking addiction counseling. All of them finding help. All of them receiving grace. Andrew appeared beside her, slipping his hand into hers. Thinking about that night. Always. How it changed everything. No regrets. Rebecca smiled. Not a single one. Even the scary parts. Even the painful parts. It all led here. To this moment. To us. To all these people finding hope. You know what I think? Andrew pulled her close. I think you were meant to be in that room. Meant to unplug those machines. Meant to wake me up. Not just from a coma, but from the life I was wasting. You saved me, Rebecca. In every way possible. We saved each other. They stood together in the clinic they had built, watching hope happen in real time. Watching second chances bloom. Watching love win. Outside, Nashville glowed in the afternoon sun. Somewhere in the city, people were struggling. But here, in this space they had created, there was help. There was grace. There was always another chance. Because that is what Rebecca had learned from her mistake. That sometimes the worst moments lead to the best outcomes. That kindness is stronger than fear. That love conquers even the darkest circumstances. That second chances are real. And that miracles happen when people choose grace over judgment, hope over despair, and love over everything else. The end came full circle, back to where it started. But everything was different now. Everything was better. Because one mistake, one terrible, beautiful mistake, had changed countless lives. And it all began with a cord coming loose in a dark hospital room, and a scared young woman whispering an apology to a stranger. That apology became a conversation. That conversation became a relationship. That relationship became a movement. And that movement brought hope to thousands. This was their legacy. This was their story. A story of redemption, second chances, and the power of choosing kindness even when everything seems lost.